Hey everybody, welcome to the Insurance Journal's Academy of Insurance's weekly webinar after show. I'm your host George, and joining me for the after show is today's instructor. Today's class was Unclear and Inconspicuous, dealing with a homeowner's exclusion you didn't know existed. And our instructor for today is Mr. Bill Wilson. Bill, welcome to the after show. It's great to have you here.
Thanks, George.
Excellent. Bill, I have a quick question. So your class was super informative today, as usual. You had mentioned to me in a previous conversation that you were an engineer and then you got into insurance. Can you tell me, I hope you don't mind the question, but what drew you to insurance and what made you want to make the career change?
What drew me? Well, to go back a little bit further, I tell people I'm older than ISO, and I'm also older than FedEx, which is another story. But
Wow.
anyway, going back to when I graduated from high school, I had a scholarship offer, and it was pre-ISO, but it was there was a loose organization of regional and state rating bureaus and inspection bureaus that ultimately became ISO. Well, the Western Actuarial Bureau had a scholarship program for fire protection engineering. At the time, there were only two universities that had degree programs: Illinois Institute of Technology and University of Maryland. So I went to IIT, which is where most of the people, it was mainly for inspection services. We'd go out and set rates on buildings and do sprinkler reports and underwriting stuff and all that. So I got a degree in fire protection engineering, and needless to say, virtually all my work was for insurance companies. So somebody suggested to me that I'd work to get the CPCU designation so that I would better understand the industry and the lingo and communicate with people. So I did that, and I got hooked on the insurance side. When I took the insurance coverage parts of the program, to me, figuring out if something was covered or not was kind of like a Where's Waldo search, or the board game Clue, that, who did it. It was Colonel Mustard in the library with a candlestick, that kind of thing. So it was, I wouldn't call it a game, but it became really interesting to me to determine facts and circumstances of various claim scenarios and whether a policy would cover that or not. So I ended up transitioning from engineering into management with ISO. And then from there, I went to work for the Big I Tennessee State Association, and then ultimately the National Association as a coverage geek. That's what I did for the last 30 some odd years.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you're super accomplished. I had to stop reading your bio and in the middle because I would take up too much time listing all your accolades. So I was wondering, what drew you to it, when you got started, things like that. So thanks for filling us in on that. And that sort of segues into my question. You were talking about, so the class is about, homeowners exclusions you didn't know existed. And early on in the class, you talked about two examples, pre-claim and post-claim, and they involved your Nana. And so I was wondering if, and you and your brother are helping her out, and I was wondering if that occasion was before you got into insurance, or had you already been involved in insurance?
No, that was long after I was involved in the industry. It was when I was working for the Big I. So I was pretty familiar with all the insurance coverage stuff.
Got it. So in your class, you provide a lot of case law, like cases about the related to the subject, and some of them are from several years ago. I was wondering, do you ever go back to these cases, and does the ISO ever make a change that might change one of these verdicts? And do you ever let anybody know about it or talk about them in your classes, or do the verdicts pretty much stay the same despite the ISO's changes?
No, they definitely do. If you ever read an ISO filing, and you can get these things online in the NAIC CERT program, you can get copies of ISO filings. And often when they make a change, it's in response to case law. Usually it's where usually it involves some sort of an exclusionary provision where the court overturned that and found that there was coverage. So they're revising the language to make it clear of the intent not to cover something. But they do look at trends in case law and develop coverage forms for certain kinds of emerging issues, AI and things like that involve coverage and not just exclusion. So yeah, I think it's a big part of what ISO does.
Got it. I was just curious how often that happens. So thank you so much. Another slide, you were talking about the argument for coverage, reasons proposed to the ISO and the insurance industry for adding to coverage or changing coverage. You mentioned that tornadoes and meth labs are things that you would recommend that these are reasons for coverage that maybe you propose or the industry proposes. Why are tornadoes and meth labs not covered under these exclusions?
It's without trying to rehash everything I talked about in the webinar. The webinar is basically about the whether there's any coverage on a homeowner's policy if you're no longer residing in a home. And I gave well over a dozen scenarios where people don't occupy their homes for various reasons, many beyond their control. And there's a possibility, depending on the company, the adjuster, the case law in a particular jurisdiction, where there may not be coverage if a loss happens to a dwelling and you're no longer the named insured, resident spouse are no longer residing there. So it's understandable in certain situations because if say you're renting your home, you move, you relocate, you rent your home, and you don't change your homeowner's policy to a dwelling form to recognize that it's a rental property now. There's an increased risk there when the homeowner is not actually there all the time. But I think it's pretty peril specific. A tornado doesn't care who's living there, whether they're the owner or a tenant or whatever. So it's never made any sense for a company to deny a claim involving a peril where it's immaterial about whether there's residency or not. But those types of claim denials exist.
Understood. Bill, towards the end of the class, you're giving your contact information out. You're mentioning you're closing a site or passing it along to someone else to maybe administer. What site is that? Is that your current site where people go to get information related to all things Bill Wilson, or insurance commentary, or something else?
It's insurancecommentary.com. When I retired, I never intended to fully retire. I've always called it semi-retirement, but now I tell people after 10 years that there's less and less semi in it. I still love the industry. I still have opinions about things. I'm on LinkedIn quite a bit, so I always invite people to connect with me on LinkedIn. But I do less and less of that than I used to. But one of the first things I did when I was retired was create insurancecommentary.com, where I blogged for quite a while. It's been, I know, well over a year since I've added a new blog post. So I don't do it much anymore. And I've had a young guy, he's an attorney, and actually his background is as a public adjuster, and who is interested in taking that over. He thinks I should leave that information. I've got hundreds of blog posts on all kinds of issues, and he would hate to see that go away. So right now, I'm possibly transferring it over to him. In the meantime, I write a monthly column for the Insurance Journal, and they not long ago they transported all of my content to the Insurance Journal website. It's not up and running anywhere, but I think the plan is I gave it to the folks there because I hope that it would be a benefit to people in years to come. So I think their plan is to, in some way, make that available through the Insurance Journal website at some point.
Absolutely. Bill, you said you're a 6-time author, and we definitely know that. Your When Words Collide book is consistently a top 100 bestseller for casualty insurance, for example, on Amazon. Mm-hmm. But you mentioned that you had written 6 books, and that not only are they chock full of information, but they could help someone with insomnia problems, maybe fall asleep. I wanted to ask you, can you clarify that? And is that a scientifically proven assertion?
Well, I was kidding. Actually, those insurance books are brilliant, and they're page turners. I tell people the When Words Collide is like a Stephen King novel, except it's way scarier. So a little bit tongue in cheek. But when I wrote that book, I deliberately tried to write it in a conversational way, so it wasn't like some textbook with a bunch of stuff in it that wasn't
Sure.
interesting. So I don't know if I did it, but that was one of my goals, was to make it a book that you would reference in years to come, but that you would enjoy and actually read it. So
Well, it's been top 100 for as long as I have been checking that statistic for our books. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely a timeless classic, Bill. So thanks. And I want to ask you one more question about your music. So you did mention that at the end of your class, how you're more. I don't know if you're ever less involved in your music, but I know you're songwriting and you're going to be playing out more. What are you working on right now? And are you going to be playing any insurance events in the future? Do you like playing in? Are Nashville fans the best? Like, what's the to play in front of? What's the? Can you give us a little more Bill Wilson information as related to music?
all right, when I retired, one of the things I wanted to do was to start a band, so I did, and it evolved into a classic rock cover band called the Spiders. We've been we haven't gigged in about 2 years probably because we can't all stay healthy at the same time between knee replacement surgery and the pandemic and all that stuff. We've had some health issues, but we're talking about getting back together again here before long and doing some stuff. But from that, I morphed into another band called Mr. Nobody, which is an originals band. Me and one of my bandmates have co-authored about 16 songs. So we will do a gig where we usually open somebody else at a venue that specializes in original music and play our all or part of our songs. And then most recently, the last year and a half or so, I started a band called the Code Blues Band. The Code Blues is a reference to we're all the old guys, so we too continue to have health issues. So we're a blues band. We actually host a blues jam at a local dive bar every Wednesday night, and we do some gigs. We play classic and contemporary blues from Muddy Water to a Scottish blues band called King King. We play Americana music like J.J. Cale. We play some blues-influenced rock like artists like Eric Steckel and Anthony Jones. So
Sure.
I'm staying busy at that. But recently I started writing on my own, and I released my first single on all the streaming platforms, Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, all that. It's a song called Don't Give Up. And I do it under the artist name Riders of the Starlight Highway. It's named after a highway in Australia, and I just thought it sounded cool. So I wrote that song and published it, and on my Facebook page, I write about the story behind the song, why I wrote it, and who it's for. So that's my first one. I'm going to be doing more of those, I think, because I enjoy songwriting now, probably more than performing.
That's great. Bill, thanks for filling us all in on your musical journey. Really appreciate it. And thank you so much for the class today. The class again was unclear and inconspicuous, dealing with a homeowner's exclusion you didn't know existed. Bill has a bunch of classes on Academy of Insurance, including webinar versions of When Words Collide. You can, if you're not a member of the Academy, join so you can, get into the goodness of Bill Wilson courses. If you are a member of the Academy, check them out. And go to Spotify, Riders on the Starlight Highway.
Riders of the Starlight Highway.
Got it. Great.
Yeah.
Well, our guest today and today's instructor is Mr. Bill Wilson. Bill, thanks again for your time today. Really appreciate the conversation. And anything else you'd like to tell your fans or Academy members, or pretty much just check out
No, but
your stuff?
I will confirm what you said, that people should sign up for the Academy of Insurance. I think it's the
Thanks.
best insurance education destination on the internet. I know a lot of the people who
Wow.
have done webinars for you, so it's a bargain for the information that you get there.
Oh, thanks for the plug. Really appreciate it. On
Mhm.
behalf of Bill Wilson, this is your host George saying thanks everybody for coming to the after show. We'll see you next time. Contact the Academy, support at IJAcademy.com if you want to join. I know a guy. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time. Take care, everybody.